Next topic is misleading graphs. According to the U.S. Census Bureau in 2002, a U.S. dollar could buy only half of what it could buy in 1980. What is misleading about this graph? This 2002 dollar looked like it's about half the size of the 1980 dollar. And I'm going to say no. It's about half the height, and it's about half the width, but it's only 1/4 of the area. If you know, it's half the height, so this would be the full height, half the width. Extend it to the full width, that would be over here. So anyway, there's it's actually 1/4 of the area, and the eye is drawn to area. So so generally, when you're making a graph, if it's a one variable graph, you should only adjust the graph in one direction, not two different directions. So if you're going to change the length, don't also change the width. Or if you're going to change the width, don't also change the length. You should only change it in one direction. Okay. Another misleading graph. This is also about the declining dollar of the value of the dollar. So here we have values of the dollar on the vertical scale from 0 to 1, and then we have the year on the horizontal scale from 1950 up to 2002. It looks like the dollar declined very steeply in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then after about 1990, it looks like it leveled out. It doesn't still maybe declining a little bit, but not so much. And the question is, what is misleading about this graph? Well, if you look at it carefully, and on the left side of the graph, the tick marks are going every 10 years. So we have 1950, 1960, 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000. And then on the right side, now the tick marks are every single year, every 1 year. So the same amount of space. So if everything else being equal, the dollar is going to decline more during a 10-year period than it will be in a 1-year period. So it might be that, in fact, the dollar is leveling out, but the way this scale is set up, it sort of makes it seem like it's even part of what makes it look like it's leveling out is the way the scale is set up here. Maybe it is leveling out a little bit, but the scale also is part of the reason why it looks like it's leveling out. So you have to be careful about making the scale even. Okay, what's wrong with this graph? This is actually the same graph. I made this graph using the Excel spreadsheet, and if you don't type in labels, I had to type in these labels: declining value of the dollar. I put in the dollar signs here. I put the label this the year. If you don't put in labels, Excel supplies its own labels, and maybe they have meaning, maybe they don't. I see some decimal numbers on the left scale here. We don't know what those numbers represent. I see the series 3, whatever that means. I see these numbers 1 through 8 here. I don't know what those numbers represent. So there's the label. It's actually the same graph. If you look at it, it looks pretty much the same, except for the labeling. This labeling is not clear on this graph here. Okay, another misleading graph. Now these two graphs are both based on the same data. Again, they're the declining value of the dollar. It looks like here it looks like the dollar's worth maybe about 40 cents in 2010 compared to what it was worth in 1980. Same over here, about 40 cents. But on On the graph on the left, the right bar looks like it's a lot smaller than the right bar on this. The bar for 2010 looks like it's a lot shorter than on the left graph than it is on the right graph. And why is that the case? Well, on the left graph, if it looks like the scale started at about 30 cents. So they didn't go all the way down to 0 on the graph on the left. On the graph on the right, the scale starts at 0, so you can see the full 40 cents here. What you see here is just the part from between 30 and 40 cents. You don't see the full, so it looks like it's about 10 cents. It doesn't look like it's 40 cents, but it should be. So, if you look at the graph carefully, you can maybe realize that this represents 40 cents, or a little bit half the value of the original dollar. But here you can see it more visually. Like this is 40 cents. It's almost half of the value of the 1980 dollar. So generally you should start your the vertical scale from 0. It depends on the graph, but it can be misleading. The graph can be misleading if you don't set your vertical scale at 0. There's reasons why you might want to not set it at 0. If these are very close to being equal, and you want to emphasize the difference between them, that might be a reason for not starting at 0. But generally, you want to start your vertical scale at 0. Otherwise, your graphs are not going to be proportional to the value of the variable. The length of the graph won't be proportional to the value of the variable. And that concludes this presentation.